the cloud. Cool. And for everyone joining us today, we're going to start in a few moments. We have obviously the wonderful Pamela Caughey here. And, you know, what we would love is folks join us. Let us know you could hear us, right? We want to make sure everything works before I hand this over to Pam. Thank you. That's awesome. I see people writing in. But yeah, let us know what, you know, you can hear us. Let us know where you're writing in from. You know, this is, we encourage interactivity and you know, there's going to obviously time for Q&A at the end, but we would love to know, what do you want to get out of today's workshop? What are the things you hope to learn? And as much as you could share about that, you know, it's going to make this a more interactive and just a great experience. And like I said, we're going to get started in a minute or two. So yeah, I see folks joining. Southern California, Washington State, Palm Desert, California. That's awesome. That makes me happy. Very, very cool.
Aaron, I'll be right back. I want to try something real quick, okay? I'll be right back.
Why not? All right. Well, Sydney, Nebraska. Cool. This is great. And as we wait for Pamela to get back, you know, one thing we're going to want to do is just a bit of technical housekeeping. Perfect. Perfect. You can hear us. This is great. In a second here, I'm just going to show folks how to configure your YouTube. Make sure you get the best video quality. We're going to get started in a minute or two. Pamela, she's trying something new. She'll be right back. I'm actually going to share my screen. I just want to show everyone how to configure their YouTube to get the most out of this experience. Let me just get this ready for you. So you folks should be able to see my screen. The one thing I want to show you is if the video is looking a little fuzzy, what you're going to want to do is click on this settings icon and actually set it to 720p. You're going to get a much, much better experience. So feel free to do that. Let me stop my share. Pamela will be back in just a moment. Let me get this set up here. Cool. All right. And for everyone joining us, we're going to get started in just a minute. You know, for anyone who joins late, all good. There's going to be a replay available. And you know, as this goes on today, and Pamela gets started in a minute, you know, please use this chat to put in questions. Put things here. I'm going to be watching this chat. I'm going to grab questions as they come in. You know, some we might answer during it, but no matter what, we leave time for Q&A at the end. So, you know, for folks who are joining us today, obviously you're here to see Pamela Caughey and her just wonderful, wonderful approach to creativity. Which applies not just to painting, but to anything that requires creative effort. She's going to give you her background and walk through her pieces in a minute. But again, for everyone joining, please share your questions. Please let us know what you hope to get out of this workshop in the chat. And without further ado, Pamela, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate that. And hello, everybody. I have my little iPad set up here, so I've been able to watch you guys coming on here onto the call, and I want to thank all of you for being here and taking out precious time on your day. I can't think of a better way to spend it for me. I love to share, you know, what I've learned, and I'll be doing a presentation here and sharing my screen. And Aaron has everything under control. If you guys have questions as I'm talking, feel free to put it in the chat. And then if it's something that pertains to what I just said, like you don't get something I just said, highly likely that could happen. He will then like notify me and I can answer kind of as we go. But for the most part, most questions are going to be saved until the end. Okay, so welcome everybody. Let's get started. All right, share my screen. Here we go. Find my PowerPoint. Got to move this out of the way. There we go. Okay. Minimize this. Okay, can everybody hear me? Can everybody see my screen? If some of you can just say yes, that would be awesome. Double check the technology here. Anybody want to just tell me?
It looks good. I do see the counter in the upper right, but besides that, I see 9 stages of creativity.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. So welcome to 9 stages of creativity. How to start, get unstuck, and finish your paintings. I'm gonna grab my little, do I have a cursor here? Okay, so, all right. So first of all, I just want you all to know, if you didn't already know this, that I love to teach in addition to loving to paint. I do conduct live and online workshops, and of course, due to COVID, live workshops have been shut down. I was supposed to teach in Vienna, 3 workshops in New Zealand, and 1 on Bainbridge Island this year in 2020. They were all canceled. But I started my online workshops and courses back in 2018. And so I've just been loving the online platform as well. I think there are advantages to both. And I just, nothing makes me happier than helping other artists succeed and basically learn from my mistakes. And I've made them all. So that's one reason why I'm very passionate about sharing what I've learned with you. Quick screenshot of my YouTube channel. Some of you are familiar with it and some of you are not. But the funny thing is that the whole thing started kind of as a fluke. I had a brand new iPhone and I didn't know what the video button was for. I hit it and I just happened to be painting and I recorded, and I found out that people had an interest in what I was doing, which was kind of a shock to me. So I've only had this channel for, I don't know, a couple of years. Just want to point out that I also teach and kind of give a lot of tips and things like that on my channel. So if you're not subscribed, please do. Real simple to do that. All you have to do is look for this little subscribe button here. The advantage of that is, I'll show you here. For instance, I'm launching a video on Sunday, this coming Sunday. If you're subscribed, what happens is you get a notification, not from me, but from YouTube. And they're like, hey, Pamela Caughey just launched a video. You might want to watch it. This Sunday, I'm going to be talking about this nifty hanging system that's behind me here. It's very cool. And it's all about works on paper and how do you display them. So anyways, if you subscribe to my channel, you just hit this and then be sure to click the notification bell. That's the only way that you'll get an email from YouTube telling you that it's available. So where did I begin and why listen to me? Number one, I began self-taught, like a lot of you. I mean, how many of you in the audience here started or are still self-taught? I mean, I was that way for most of, my 30 years of painting, because that's kind of what we do. Well, and then growing up, of course, my parents cared very much for me, and they wanted only what was best for me. But as many of you may have also experienced, our parents do not look at being an artist as any way to earn an income. So I was told I would starve. Go ahead and be an artist, but you'll probably starve. Okay, so I kind of digested that little nugget, and my success was very up and down. And I wonder if, those of you out there, I may not know you, but I've met enough artists, talked with enough artists that I feel that success being up and down is kind of one of those universal things that happens to us. And I got stuck a lot. I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of doubt. I had a lot of procrastination. I think that kind of comes with the territory. I'd love to know if you guys agree that it's kind of part of what being an artist is all about, or being creative, regardless if you're a writer, a dancer, you work in your on your scrapbook, or you're doing quilting, or whatever it is you're doing. These are all creative activities. So, and for the longest time, until maybe in the last 10 years, I had a very hard time calling myself an artist. I just couldn't say it. Like, me, an artist, didn't even come across my mind. So what happened? Well, I overcame my obstacles. How did I do this? I spent 30 years basically doing my homework. So the one thing that I did learn way back, my first degree was in biochemistry. Didn't work out, but I did learn how to kind of teach myself. And I think that a lot of us, that's what we kind of learned from college. And so art became a science for me. Between these years, our first son was born in 1986. And then for the next roughly, 20 years? I think it's about maybe 30 years. Anyways, art became this science for me, meaning that science is the study of X, Y, and Z. So I just turned my studio into my lab, okay? And that's what you're doing as well, whether you realize it or not. I took countless workshops and mentorships, as many of you have done. Right around 2008, I kind of hit this, actually it's around 2006 that I hit this, this block and, kind of felt like I plateaued, and I've been doing a lot of watercolors. I had a lot of success, I was selling paintings and I was teaching and all these things, but something was missing. And I decided at this point in 2008 to apply to the grad school at the University of Montana, their School of Art. Got in, luckily, fortunately, spent the next several years there and got my MFA in painting and drawing. And now I teach and exhibit in the US and abroad. My mission is to share everything, and I mean everything. I have no secrets that I've learned with you so that you can succeed faster. My 9 stages of creativity, what they gave for me, because this all came out of my own need to have something visual that I could follow and keep myself on track. And I'll tell you more about why I even came up with this thing. It gives me, and I hope it gives you, a consistent pathway. It's going to help you know like how to get started and how do you keep going when you're stuck. And then, like, how many of you want to finish your work? You probably have stacks of paintings in your closet under your bed, and maybe you've even, oh my gosh, thrown them away. That was what I did, but I think it's very hard to make progress in any creative endeavor if you can't see things to fruition all the way to the end. So the 9 stages of creativity give you a consistent pathway without fear, without procrastination or doubt. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's worked for me. But isn't painting easy? Isn't it kind of like, straight line going from A, where you get started with the painting, all the way to B? I mean, it's easy, right? Isn't painting so easy? No, it's not, at least not for me. Maybe for you it is, but I'm guessing you're on this Zoom call, this YouTube channel right now with me because it's not easy. In fact, this has been my experience, and I'd love to know if this is what you guys also feel. Okay, let's say that you get started with the painting. You walk into your studio and it's like, okay, I'm happy. It's a sunny day. I want to go in my studio and just like, push some paint around. So yeah, you're going to just like have kind of a good time, right? But then at some point you're like, oh my gosh, this is so ugly. Then your left brain kicks in and it tells you it's ugly. It has absolutely no inhibition to tell you that what you're doing is ugly and you should leave your studio right now. Okay, then we go into this. These are kind of like part of my 9 stages, but I'll get into this in the next slide. So your painting progresses, and 9 times out of 10, many of us get stuck. That's where we have our timeout. We're like, okay, this is where we push the painting like way to the back of the pile. Maybe we stuff it under our bed. Worst case scenario, we gesso over the entire surface and we start all over. Well, as you know, that doesn't really help you become the artist you're meant to be. So that's all happening kind of in the middle stages of any painting's life. But then, you get to the end. I mean, if you can get there, right, you're pretty happy. And what you're doing at the end of your painting is you are clarifying your message. You want people to know how you feel, and you're expressing yourself visually. But I will say that although this is the normal process for me, this is the process I am personally sharing with you that I've experienced, it wasn't until I learned myself what makes design powerful and what makes color personal in this part where you start to get stuck that I was able to finish my work. And that's what I want to share with you right now. So here's a picture of this 9 stages of creativity flowchart. I call it a flowchart, but you can call it whatever you want. Keep in mind that this was pretty specific to my own personal process. I had to look inward and try to figure out where I was getting stuck. But this 9 stages is kind of the framework of my entire online course, which is called Powerful Design and Personal Color. And I've shared it with hundreds of artists around the world. And through feedback, they tell me that, yes, this sort of framework here has really helped them to begin, keep going, and finish their work. So that makes me very happy. That's kind of what this is all about. So let's dive into this chart and look at it more closely. First thing I want you to notice is these little orange dots in the beginning and then kind of upper right-hand corner. But to also just glance at this, don't look at the words, but just notice that this is kind of it's kind of like, I like to think of it as sort of like a game board because they're fun. Games are fun, right? Well, we want our art to be fun. So just notice that this is kind of the path we're gonna take, a pathway all the way to here. So where do we start? Does this sound familiar to you? Do you have fear, frustration, procrastination? Do you have unfinished work? Multiple styles like 16 personalities like I did, confusion? Yeah, that's kind of where I was when I sort of had to look at my process and figure out what the heck was going on. Why was this happening? Where did I want to go? I wanted to be here. I wanted to be productive. I wanted to have momentum. I wanted to learn more about, what makes a great painting? Like, how do I make it powerful? And how do I express myself with color? I wanted it to be sensitive and I wanted it to be sensational. Like, who doesn't want that, right? However, this is the reality of the situation here. This is a brain, obviously. And I think a lot of you know that your left brain is a little bit different than your right brain. And this is known science. When we walk into our studio, we say to ourselves, gosh, I'm going to walk in my studio today, and by the end of the day, I want to create a masterpiece. I mean, that would be the best case scenario, right? That's what your left brain wants. Your left brain is analytical, logical, critical, verbal. And I think for most people, it's the dominant voice in your head. So if you are like listening to this inner voice, that inner voice, if it's critical, that's coming from the left brain. If it's kind of like talking about, oh gosh, I love that color, and oh, I love how soft these leaves are, that's your right side of the brain. So your left side of your brain is constantly on your case. The minute you set foot in your studio, it's telling you, gosh, you're in the studio, it better be good. You bought these art supplies, they're expensive. You better use them and it better look great, and you better sell it. You better sell it for a lot of money. Who do you think you are? Are you an artist? And then finally hang it up and get a real job, right? That is your left brain. So just know that. Okay, that is pretty much what's going on inside my head. And I'm guessing it's probably what went inside of your head many of the time. So the right side of the brain is emotional, creative, visual, sensitive, non-dominant. That's why it's kind of faded here a little bit, because dominant, non-dominant. I want to express myself. I have so much to say. Art is my refuge, right? Okay, so now the 9 stages of creativity. On my YouTube channel, I've simplified it down to 3 because I don't want to, I don't want to overwhelm people. And you'll see by the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you 2 examples of paintings that I have taken through these 9 stages. I will show you in detail. So that's coming. But for now, I want you to focus on just 3 things, 3 developmental levels, and realize that what I believe is that your paintings, your creations grow up just like you did from child to adult. But we need to break it down into bite-sized pieces, or you're not going to be able to digest anything. You're going to be like, a masterpiece? That's not a bite-sized piece. But if you can break a masterpiece down into its components, then you have a much better chance of creating your masterpiece. It may not happen at the end of your day, but you're going to have a much better chance of getting there. The first 3 stages in my 9 stages, I call the child stages. And look, if you can put your mindset into that of a young child, maybe even a 3-year-old, and just look at getting into your studio as playful. And I'm going to go into detail about what that entails. So you're starting as a child, but then your painting grows up just like you did. You became a teenager. Those things that you did as a child are no longer good enough. You realize that you have feelings and you have things that you want to explore and you want to discover new things. So as your painting began as a child, it needs to develop and go further. So I'm going to talk about what happens during your teenage years of your painting. And then, well, gosh, you know, if you're going to finish your work, hopefully by that time, we're going to allow that critical left brain to come in and help us out. Because by that time, by the time you're an adult, okay, now, maybe now it's okay for our left brain to weigh in. We didn't need our left brain so much here. Yeah, we're going to let it in a little bit here because, you know, teens do think a little bit. But by the time you're an adult, yeah, it's time for the brain to kick in. And that's why you really do need to understand, well, what makes design and what makes color? It's important when you're an adult, but you shouldn't be thinking about that when you're a child. Another thing about this flow chart here is these arrows. Again, this is like a pathway, but notice this is like, you know, you can go forward and you can go in reverse. Progress in any artwork or any art form or creative endeavor, you know, I don't like to call them mistakes, but I do like to call them perhaps like you do an experiment, the experiment failed or whatever. So that might mean you have to go back a little bit. So like you might be all the way up to here and be like, you know what, crap, I just painted over something I loved. I better go backwards all the way back to here or back to here. And we're gonna go into detail again. So just notice that this is not a rigid thing. This has so much room for flexibility. It's versatile. And, you know, again, if this doesn't apply to you exactly, and, you know, again, this is like personal to me, but it's helped hundreds of other artists I've worked with, then you might want to create your own path that works for you. Having that visual framework is really very powerful. When you begin a painting with play, you eliminate self-criticism, fear of getting started, fear of failing, doubt, procrastination. What goes on in the play stage? Your child, right? Okay, so obviously the first thing you've got to do is pick some colors. And everything you do in this lower tier here has to be easy and like no difficulty in doing these things. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. So we need to make this easy. We can all pick out our colors. We can all mix our colors and we can all throw paint down, right? That's what you can do. We want to make it easy. And I'm sure every single person who is listening right now, if you're painting, you can do all of these things. You can be your child again. The play stages include trying different tools, different marks, different shapes. What makes you happy? Anything goes. Play, have fun, have joy. Are you not having fun? You're probably thinking too much. Okay, so that's the one thing I tell my students. If you're not enjoying play, and I did not enjoy play. It took me a year to learn how to play. That's how tightly wound I was. I was not having fun. And when I was told that I should play, I spent, I don't know, the next couple of weeks thinking, gosh, art has really never been fun for me. No judgment, no criticism, no fear. These are the things we strive for in those initial 3 stages. At the end of play, what do you have? Well, this is an example behind me of a painting that is, I'm demonstrating this on YouTube. This is a very early stage. I didn't know where I was going. I did not have a plan, but I can tell you one thing, I was having fun. And whether you think this is ugly, whatever you think about it, I didn't care. I think that's the point. You don't need to care what it looks like. You just need to get your foot in the studio, squirt out some paint and throw it onto some surface. That is really the goal. So if it's ugly and it might be a mess, don't worry, because ugly is good and you'll find out why. All right, now we got to take that, you know, okay, let's say it's ugly. We're going to move now this painting to the next tier. It's growing up. You've had fun, but let's face it, that painting's not done yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through these explore stages and envision that our painting is now kind of like in those teenage years. Think back to your teenage years. What did you do? I'm not asking you that, you know, specifically, but you took risks and you experimented. You wanted to do things that were kind of risky. You didn't always think of the consequences. it was kind of like, wow, I mean, I'm going to try this because I haven't done this yet. In the explore stage, I encourage my students to ask the same things that I ask myself. What don't I have? What haven't I tried? And what do I love? You're looking for treasure. This is a time to layer paint over paint, conceal it, reveal it, experiment. This is how you get unstuck, by the way. All these things here, all of these 5 blocks here, if you can remember these 5 things, these are the key to getting unstuck. Think like a teenager, take risks, discover what you love, keep exploring until you find your gems. The explore stages take time. Don't rush. These are moments when you discover who you are, your voice, your personality. It's okay to pause or give your painting a rest, but never, never quit. I know it's tempting, but no, do not quit and do not throw your painting away. Art is problem solving. Pushing through your toughest challenges will create the greatest amount of growth in the least amount of time. Who doesn't want that? The greatest amount of growth in the least amount of time. Or would you rather spend 3 decades like I did? Yeah, I was not too happy about that. Okay, your painting now has moved up to this top tier. After the explore stages, we've pushed enough paint around, we've concealed, we've revealed, we've tried new methods and new techniques. Well, now we've identified some areas of our art that we're actually really liking. Well, now it's time to clarify those things so that they stand out and they're kind of the star in our play. Your painting is kind of like, I like to think of it as, the metaphor is like, you know, you're creating a movie and you've got these star players, these star actors, the well-known high-paid actors, and then you've got the supporting actors, you've got the scenery and the backdrop, but not everything can be, you know, featured in your painting. You have to decide those things that you love. So in Clarify, you found your diamonds in the rough. That's what all those other 6 stages were for. Now it's time to declutter, simplify, refine, and edit. This is a time for your adult finesse and subtlety, your ability to distinguish between these little things. You're now a discerning adult and sensitivity rules. When your gems are polished, you're able to entertain your audience. Our artwork is a form of communication, and it is a visual language. Like any language, it takes time to learn it. We have to practice it. We do start by imitating what we hear. That's very normal. So when people say, gosh, that person's copying me, that's how you learn. So I think that's perfectly normal. But, okay, I've been doing a lot of talking here. Don't just tell me, show me. I know that that's what you're thinking. So, okay, let's just go right into this. Let me show you 9 stages of creativity as it applies to a couple of my paintings. Here is example 1. This painting is called Divide. This is the finished painting. It was started as an acrylic painting, and then I kind of midway through, you're going to see that I transitioned it into another medium, cold wax and oil. How many of you love mixed media? How many of you love to use different dry mediums and then, you know, move into another medium, watercolor and then acrylic, whatever. So that's kind of what I did here. So let's just look at this in terms of what I did. I began with play, stage 1. I picked my palette. This is just a color wheel. I did not have all of these colors on my palette, but you could, because you're a child and, you know, you get to do what you want. You're a child. Nobody needs to tell you what to do. I chose random acrylic colors for my palette. I'm starting with acrylic. So you'd have to decide what medium you want to work in. And then I've got a little value chart here. I have these in my studio and they're very useful. Stage 2 is when you mix your paints with each other, and with black and white, you get tints, tones, and shades. You know, what you're trying to do here is become aware of the potential for every single color that you have in your studio. And I have a lot of colors I have not even begun to explore yet. So I'm still working on it. Those are the first two stages of play. Here's the third one. Be your inner child. And this is where you get to have fun. Okay, you've picked out your colors, you've mixed them up, and now you have your support, whether it's a canvas or cradle panel or piece of paper, whatever it is. Just put the paint down and don't think. In this case, these are the early stages of that painting I showed you. It's a horrible mess, but I was not telling myself that. I was just having fun. I can now be critical about it because it's just a picture. Here, I threw on some masking paper and I created these just weird shapes because I was just having fun being a kid, and that's what a kid might do. And then I took off the masking paper and that's what I had. So ugly, right? Yep, very ugly. But ugly is good in the play stage. Do not beat yourself up. Now we're going to take this painting on to the explore stage. Now this painting is kind of growing up, right? Because I was not going to live with that play stage forever. So my painting is now going to go through some transition here. I'm going to now go for some big changes, right? Because if what I had before was ugly, I'm going to have to do something to make it transform. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to layer, texture, conceal, and reveal. I'm going to sand. I'm going to collage. I'm going to do anything I can to create interest. Here are just some of the many techniques that I used on this painting. I did masking, monoprint, glazing, mark making, patterns, positive, negative shapes. And down here, these were all acrylic stages, but I decided at this point where it was here, I was kind of stuck. And again, this is all about getting unstuck. For me, in this painting, because every painting's different, this is not a formula, I decided to move into another medium. So I did. I covered the whole thing with, I started to work with cold wax medium and oils. This is still the explore stage. Now it's the stage 5, looking for treasure. So the painting starts to progress, throwing paint around with a little bit more intent. I'm not the child anymore. I'm the teenager, and I have the ability to know when I don't like something versus when I do like it. But I'm trying to find things that are worthy of being in this painting and staying there. So as this painting progresses, I've circled all the areas that I started to like. I like this. I like these little circles. I liked line. I love mark making. So if anyone watches my videos, you know I'm crazy about mark making. I like this. This is like a Gamsol drip. Doesn't matter if you don't know what that means. It's just like you drop some odorless mineral spirit onto paint and you let it sit there, and then you squeegee it away, and then you get this little pattern. Drawing into wet paint. More of the odorless mineral spirit lift, etc. There's some script down here, shapes. So I started to circle these areas that I liked, and that's what you start to do. You're looking for things to feature in your painting. Who's going to be the star of my play? Okay, so here they are again. We're moving on now and explore. This is another thing that happens to a lot of us, including me still all the time. But we don't need to say everything in one painting. Sometimes we're trying to say everything in one painting because I don't know why that is, that feeling of, wow, we need to say everything, but we don't, and we can't. It's just too much for the viewer and ourselves to digest. So some simplification needs to happen, and you need to look at your artwork and say, gosh, what is it that I love most? And when I looked at all these things over here, what I liked most, I loved this area and this and this and this. I was willing to get rid of all of these things. In the next stage here, we are moving on to the clarify stages. This painting now is advancing to be the adult. Once you've identified those things you really care about, you have to become the editor-in-chief. And that is hard. I know a lot of artists are like, gosh, I love this, I don't want to cover it up. But it's kind of like, if you do that, you're going to have a stronger painting than if you don't do that. And that's your choice. So I got rid of things that distracted from my gems. The clarify stage is really slow down, really slow down. You're not whipping paint around anymore. These are becoming almost microscopic changes. And those who are in my critique group know that. I'm sure I'm always amazed at how small a change it can take to make a painting go from like, oh, okay, it's okay, but you know, you want it to be great. So in this case, I painted out this entire dark shape. That's the difference between here and here. Final touches. Now we are getting close to the end of this painting journey here. This painting has grown up considerably, considering where it started, right? Now it's all about finesse and subtlety. Again, these are very small changes. They take time because you're going to be looking at this painting. You're going to be looking at like all areas of your painting, and you want to draw attention to the things that you love. What are some things you might do to draw attention to the things you love? Saturation, glazing, emphasis. Take a look at those edges. You might put in some collage material, etc. Final stage here, entertain your audience. What are some of the things that I asked myself when I was painting this? Is my painting balanced? Is there enough interest? Is it clear what I love? Great, sign your name. These are just some examples here. I blew this little area up to be here, and this area is blown up here to show you in detail what happened. In the upper right, I bumped up the blue saturation with a blue pencil, and I added the small dab of almost pure white to draw the eye near this area. That's a pretty high key area. What happened down here? Kind of hard to see because it is like a dark area, but I took some Stabilo crayon. They're water-soluble, chunky crayons, which I love. And it's a pretty saturated green down here, just to, you know, again, like I want, when somebody views my painting, I don't want them to just like hover down in this little corner and then move on to the neighbor's painting. I want them to be interested in all of my painting. So again, here's another example. This one's called Up and Away. This painting stayed as an acrylic and mixed media painting. It never worked. It never became a cold wax and oil painting. So I'm going to show you how I got from the play stage all the way to this. First of all, I picked my palette again, random colors. I mixed my colors. So again, pretty easy. We're in the play stage. This better be easy because otherwise I'm going to leave the studio. Stage 3, be your inner child. Throw that paint down. You know, anything goes. And here, the child has decided that she wants to paint over everything she just did. It's okay, nobody's watching. That left brain is left the studio. It is not interested in what the child is doing. Even a child sometimes wants to see what lies beneath. Scrape, sand, scrub. More play. Obviously, after I scraped, sanded, and scrubbed, I still wanted to like throw some more stuff on there. And then here I just covered the entire thing up. So I guess it was time for a nap. So now we're in the explore stages, again, the teenage stages. And after I had gessoed over everything, I basically sanded everything back. And I started to do those explorative, experimental things that, you know, again, more intent, experiment and take risks. After playing as a child, I entered the explore stage using more intent as I experiment and take risks. Wild shapes, crazy patterns, concealing, revealing. I watch for the treasures I seek. For example, you know, look at these crazy things that are going on. And I do love crazy shapes. So, you know, I've got to try that out. These two shapes felt a bit risky for me because they're big, they're bold, you know, they're kind of cool. Should I keep them? Well, if you decide not to, it's not considered to be a mistake. You just paint them out. I went over the very same shape and I matched the value around it and it pretty much disappeared. So it's kind of like camouflage. Okay, here, again, I didn't really like that black shape, so I just like obliterated it. And then I created this unusual black and white shape, you know, and I looked at it for a while and I said, you know what? Nope, too strong. I got rid of it. So the black became this grayed out color. The white became, I think I just distressed it with sandpaper. And so after lots of experimentation and risk taking, I see potential treasure. Now, diamonds in the rough, because they're not ready for showtime yet. But I'm starting to like this area. I'm starting to like this, and I even kind of like that. time to like, you know, analyze this painting and find something to, what is this painting about? That's what this is all about. What are you trying to say? And as you get to these upper stages here, you're again, becoming this person who has to ask yourself questions. You know, do I like it? Do I not like it? What don't I have? If I don't have it, maybe I can put it in. So I put this thing in and it's huge. And like, wow, if this painting, if I wanted to call this finished, I'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty much think this painting is about this, but I didn't really like that. So I painted up the top and then I added Stabilo crayon over this down here, the blue. So it went from red to like this electric blue. And I was like, wow, I like this. And I like this. And I like this. And I like that too. So, okay, that's enough to go with. Now I can start to edit things away from my stars, right? These are my main actors now. And anything that's going to compete with them, I have to be ruthless and kind of like start to edit things away. So one thing that I did here is I created an imperfect, semi-transparent, high key, meaning kind of light, grid over the entire painting. And this gave structural complexity and simplified many textural areas. So the one cool thing about grids or any other type of structural thing that you might want to impose on your painting, and this is like in the later stages, it's kind of random because you go light and then, you know, this is not covered and then it's light. So it kind of forces you to edit things out that you might not normally do. This became a simpler area. That became a simpler area just because of the grid. Getting toward the end now, final touches. What are final touches? Well, some of the small things I did, if you look between left and right, this W became lighter. This green was a little too potent for me, so I dulled it down. This was dark. I made it light because I wanted this to be the star, not this plus that, but just that. I increased saturation here, and this became lighter. Notice that this has dark here, so there's kind of high contrast. Well, I got rid of that. Final stage, I reviewed my design elements, color, shape, value, texture, direction, all those things. Balance, is it balanced? How do you know? Well, like you guys, I rotate a painting and you can, you know, this is not objective work, right? It's not a landscape, it's not a figure, but even if it was, you should still have balance within your painting. So, powerful design and personal color, they apply to every genre of art. That's the beauty of the visual language of art. Once you understand it, you can paint in any genre and the guidelines will apply. So I turn this painting in 4 different ways and I check the balance. You can even look at your painting in a mirror, which reverses it. And, you know, if anything bothers you, you correct the balance and then hopefully it's okay. So the final varnish, maybe you add a frame, maybe you attach a wire, and then I sign my name. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and I'm sure you have questions. Before I answer them here, I just want to tell you that, like I mentioned, I have an online course and I invite any of you who are interested in seeing how to apply these 9 stages of creativity to 16 different paintings that you would paint in the course, with me kind of coaching you virtually by showing you, you're going to look over my shoulder and see me do 16 of my own paintings. You just saw 2, but I'd be showing you 16 in 4 different color palettes. I've got kind of this special offer because you've joined me today, and my 9 stages of creativity are just the beginning. They're kind of like such a small, like not small, but one component of this entire course. And it is called Powerful Design and Personal Color. So the special offer, I think that slide is, I probably repeated it. Okay, let's just get to it. So, so what is in Powerful Design and Personal Color online course? And this is a very same course, by the way, that I do teach live, but due to COVID, I'm not sure. when I'll be traveling again. And like you might be a teacher as well, and you're kind of wondering the same thing. So in this course, what you'll be doing is filling your visual artist toolbox to the brim. You'll be watching over my shoulder as I play, explore, and finish 16 paintings. You'll also create 16 paintings with me from start to finish, but you're gonna go at your own pace. There's no like, it's only a 3-week course, it's only a 2-month course, none of that. You go at your own pace. I give demos, I have presentations, I have PDFs. You can kind of print them out and have your own little booklet to follow along with. I share what I've learned over 30 years of making art, and it's all in this course. I really did try to put everything in there that was like, you know, what are the most important things that I wish I would have known 30 years ago? You have lifetime access to the course, and it's available 24/7 on your computer, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so no risk. One other little thing is that this course, Powerful Design and Personal Color, was recently offered for 3 credits at the University of Montana School of Art, and that's where I got my MFA. So that was kind of cool. So again, lifetime access, available 24/7. This is what's in there: 11+ hours of videos, presentations, and PDFs. And I valued that at $1,100 because I looked at what was out there. Actually, most courses would be more than that, but you know, I'm trying to make this affordable. My flowchart, which actually is something that I spent a lot of time thinking about my process. I really had to dissect it, and there's actually so much information in there. 2+ hours of bonus videos and 14 hours of recorded Q&A conference calls where I'm critiquing work, and a private Facebook group, which now has close to 1,000 people in it. So if you put all this together, given that it was taken as a college course, the value is around $2,200. However, for most everybody taking this course, this would be the regular price. But because you joined me today, I just want to give everybody a little bit of a coupon here. Plus we have COVID, so it's time for a coupon. And the coupon is Teachable 100, which you can use at checkout. This would be my website, artandsuccess.com. This would be what you'd click on. This is Powerful Design and Personal Color. And then at checkout, you would put in the coupon. However, our host today, Teachable, has a link for you at the top of this presentation. All you have to do is click on the link and you're going to get this price. So it's $100 off the regular price for $4.99, but this offer is only good for 1 week. It expires next Friday, October 23rd at midnight Mountain Daylight Time. So I hope you'll join me. So now it's time for questions, and I welcome any questions you guys might have.
Pamela, that was incredible. And thank you for sharing that. As Pamela just said, folks, you know, I see there's already some questions starting to gather in the chat, but you know, with a few minutes left here, if you have any questions, if you have any topics you'd like Pamela to discuss today, share them. You know, we have a few minutes left, and I'm sure she'd be glad to do that. Additionally, you know, as she mentioned, it should be above our heads, but there should be a button available above the video, which will take you to the course where the discount is applied, and you should even be able to see that piece. Jumping into some of these questions, you know, Elise asked that during the clarifying stage and going back to paint over, she finds, or they find the paint doesn't blend well or looks fuzzy. How do I clarify with better quality?
So I'm not sure if you're talking about edge quality. It can have a lot to do with opacity and transparency of your paint. Yeah, it definitely matters, like what your painting components are. You want to try to, in order for things to blend in and be cohesive, then you kind of want to match what you've got there already. So if you've got acrylic and you've been kind of maybe have thick paint and you want to look at your edges, having these things blend in and be cohesive in the edit stage, in the clarify stage, it's a very important question, but this is definitely, yeah, the more I think about it, it's actually a very good question, because sometimes when you make a change and clarify, it stands out like a sore thumb. And you're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But then again, now some of the things that I haven't discussed are that obviously you want to have a certain amount of technical proficiency in order for the final clarifying stages to blend in and kind of look like they were meant to be there all the time. A lot of that has to do, again, with the transparency, opacity, and edge quality. I'd say those three things.
And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If we have time, we'll get to those. But I do see some more questions here. Rhonda asked, how many layers of paint is too many?
Yeah, there's really, that is completely up to the artist. You could, what I realized with my own work, I work in 4 different mediums, and I didn't mention that, but an encaustic painting might be 15 layers, it might be 10, it might be 2. Same with my acrylic paintings. It might be very shallow, it might be very thick. It really depends on, again, that play stage. And what I didn't really also point out is that sometimes in the play stage, you might kind of luck out and hit upon something that's like, you love it. That's okay. Then it's not like, the 9 stages that are meant to be laborious. And it's like, oh crap. I mean, I got something I love, but I haven't done my 9 stages yet. It's not like that. And it's also not like I only just spent 5 minutes on my painting, so therefore it can't be done. It actually can be done. And as a child, yes, we're trying to put ourselves into that mentality of being a child in the play stage, but at the same time, we're not really a child, we're an adult. And so you have the advantage of having all these years of experience, being an artist, being a painter, or being a creative person. And all you have to do is be on the lookout for things that you love. If that happens in the play stage, then it's really good to just kind of go quickly through all these things that we talk about in the course that I have, and just make it the best it can be, and then call it done. So there is no answer to that. It's kind of like whatever you want. Great question.
Got it. And I see a bunch of questions flying in now, so I'm going to have to cherry pick a few. We'll do our best to get to them all. One question was, what skill level is the course best for? What would you kind of say?
Yeah, and that's a great question too. Well, I'd say all levels, because if I had had this course when I was a teen, if I had this course when I was 8, I mean, granted, maybe I couldn't read, I don't know. But anyways, no, it's for all levels, because if you're able to play, and if you're able to watch a video, and you're able to mix paint, it's meant to take you from wherever you're at and take you to that next level. It's a progression, and it's like a visual language. So if you learned a language, which I know you have because you're here, then this is a different kind of language. This is a visual language. And we all must start as a beginner. And I don't want to assume in the course that anybody knows something. So I do start from kind of scratch. And for those artists who are more advanced, it's for you as well, because I think within the course, you kind of can always either challenge yourself more by, for example, not following the color palettes that I offer. You might want to choose your own colors, or you might want to do something a little differently. So great question. It's really for all levels.
Awesome. Another question was, when you apply the grid, right, that you mentioned earlier, do you find it confining to create within the grid, or does that disappear?
So I've done a couple, I love the grid, by the way. That is one of my, it's one of those structures that I feel really connected to. I think there's something kind of mathematical to it. But notice in Up and Away, it was a very informal grid. So I'd like to point out that some grids might be informal, meaning like, it's not like every single square is 12 by 12 inches. And I absolutely kept this in mind on that painting. When I started to put in the grid, I didn't want it to be like this very structural literal grid. So it actually gave me freedom. And I think the reason is because when you get to that stage and you're trying to edit things out, you have this dilemma like, oh gosh, I love this area and I can't cover it up. However, if you impose a grid on it, if you're going like, edit this out, keep it, edit this out, keep it, the area that you just told yourself you're going to edit it out, you're going to do it. And you're not going to say, but I love it, I can't get rid of it. So it's kind of like a way to trick yourself into doing something that you might not normally do. That's one of the advantages of the grid that I used.
Great. And you mentioned, I see a couple different questions around cold wax and oil. If question one is, if you wanted to pursue acrylics instead of cold wax and oil or some of the mediums you described, is this course still for them? Additionally, question was, any advice on cleaning tools for using cold wax?
Okay, so the first question is that, when I first created the course, I obviously needed to choose one medium to create these 16 paintings. And so the demos are in cold wax, medium, and oil, but out of the 11 hours of the course, I'd say about maybe at the very most, 45 minutes to an hour are kind of devoted to that medium. But because the course is not on technique, it's on design and color. Design and color are universal to all mediums. Now, they do also apply to sculpture, and you could be a sculptor and take this course, but it's mostly meant for 2D work. So I would say acrylics, watercolor, if you work with colored pencils, acrylic, cold wax medium, traditional oils. It doesn't matter what medium. And I like to emphasize that don't get hung up on the medium. You need to learn this visual language regardless of what medium you're in. So, yeah.
And the follow-up for that was, when using cold wax, any recommendations on cleaning tools if you're using that medium?
Yes, it's actually great. You don't need anything caustic. You don't need any things like solvents. You can, but all you really need is some cooking oil or baby oil. That's how I clean most of my tools. If you got a stubborn brush or something, yes, then you can get out your Gamsol or your odorless mineral spirit. But for most tools, cleanup is simple. All you need is some cooking oil.
Great. And because I'm seeing more questions than we might have time to answer today, is being able to ask questions, or any of these part of the course? Is this something, how best to follow up?
Yes. Okay. So I do a live or a private Facebook group that's associated with the course, but I also have many resources at my website, artandsuccess.com, where I have painstakingly put together a Q&A section where if you go to artandsuccess.com and go to the top and click on Q&A and start to type in the keywords of your question, like, okay, how do I clean my brushes? Brushes would be a keyword, clean would be a keyword. And then you click on search articles, and all of the questions that I've already answered are already in my database. And it's largely driven by keywords. So 9 times out of 10, I've heard so many questions over all these years, and I've answered so many things that, yes, that's at your fingertips. And then if you can't find your answer, then you just submit a question to me. I get an email and I answer it.
And what about personal critiques? Do you do those with the course or with the Q&A?
So, okay, as far as the critiques go, I give you an example of 6 months worth of critiques that I've done with, that I did early on in the Powerful Design and Personal Color course. But now what happened was the group got so large that I now have a master class for those people who have a solid foundation in powerful design and personal color, and they then apply to my master class. And if they're admitted, then I do live critiques twice a month, and it's very affordable. So you can find the Watch, Learn, Grow Masterclass on my website, artandsuccess.com. So if you're already an advanced artist and you just want the critique, you can also go to my website and just click on the masterclass and apply for that. And then I also have like a library full of videos.
I think we may have a slight issue with Pamela's internet. Let's give her just a second. Everything we've discussed today, there will be a replay available after. And as Pamela mentioned, the link above for her course, it should be above the course. So there will be a replay, and any further questions, any other pieces will be available in Pamela's course. Welcome back.
I don't know what happened. Did I hit something or?
I think it froze. We had 1 minute left, but we're still live. And, Pamela with 1 moment left. And I know we didn't get to all the questions. I apologize. Any last takeaways for the audience and before we sign off? Or last words of wisdom. Sorry, not takeaways.
Go from me.
Yeah, Pamela, any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, basically, I want to thank you all for being here. And it's just been like my honor. And I always feel like when I work with other artists, it's my honor to share what it is that I feel I have really struggled to learn. But I also feel very passionate that I don't want other artists to like waste the time that I wasted. Life is short. I wake up every day realizing that I mean, it's just a known that we only have so much time to do our artwork in this lifetime. We don't have time to procrastinate. We don't have time to, tuck our paintings away and not finish them. We really need to do it. So whatever speeds up that timeline for you, and that's what I hope my course will help you to do. For me, time is way more precious than any money or income. So I just encourage you to, find what works for you. And I would hope that my course would help you to create your work, make it the best it can be, make it the most personal it can be, and do it in the least amount of time, because then you will be the most productive, motivated artist there ever was. So thanks, everyone.
Incredible. And for all those in the chat, we'll be signing off in a second. Please put in your thank yous. This was an incredible session. I mean,
Thank
Pamela,
you.
thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna stop going live in just a second. But again, thank you, Pamela. That was wonderful.
Thank you for hosting, Aaron. I appreciate it. Thanks to all you at Teachable.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Live stream is stopped.